Okay, so in the last class, we were looking at, we had stopped with PGP's message format. Uh, so we will just refresh it once again before moving on to the next topic. So this is what we had seen in the last class. Okay, so the PGP message format is like this, where you have the actual message part, then there is a signature part. Uh, a signature part is for the authentication, which has a message digest along with the message digest, which is encrypted using a private key. So, so what is the key? Which is that is we're using private key of A. So A or the sender. So which of the public key private key pairs of A are we using? That information is represented using the key ID. And similarly, so we have the message, we have the signature part, we have the session key component, which is the session key is used for encrypting the message. So the session key itself is encrypted using the public key of the recipient or public key of B. So again, the key ID is used in order to identify which of the public keys of B or the recipient we use. So the this is the overall picture of the message format. What we are going to look at today is so we talked about different keys here. Key IDs of public key of A and key ID of public key of B, which is being sent along with the message. So basically, we want some method or we want some data structure to store these keys. Okay, so every user can have, according to PGP or PGP's requirement, it states that every user can have multiple public key private key pairs. So in the last class, we said we can use key ID for identifying these, but there is some mechanism for storing. Okay, storage and organization. So these storage data structures are called key rings. So there is some, there should be some systematic storage, a method for storage and organization of the keys. So a pair of data structures are present at every node of PGP. So there is one private key ring and one public key ring. The private key ring, it stores the public key private key pairs which are owned by the user or that particular node. And the public key ring, it stores the public key of other users to which this particular user is communicating. So these are the two data structures. So how does the private key ring look like? Okay, in the private key ring, you have the timestamp when this particular public key private key. So private key ring is for storing the public key private key pairs of the current user or sender. Okay, or the node. So what is the timestamp at which this public key private key pair was created? And as we said earlier, every key is being identified using what is known as a key ID. And since the keys are very large, what we said is for as the identifier, we store the public key modulo 2 raised to 64. It's basically a 64-bit number or the least significant 64 bits of the key. That is what is used for identifying this particular public key private key pair, and the public key itself is being stored. And what about the private key? Private key, if it is stored, it can be what security issues. It can be stolen or something like that. So it has to be encrypted and stored. And how we are going to encrypt it, we will look at later. Okay, and also the user ID. Okay, so the private key ring contains a timestamp, that is a date and time when this key pair was generated. Key ID is the least significant 64 bits of the public key for this particular entry. So the public key itself is also stored. And in the case of private key, the private key portion of the pair, this field is encrypted. Encrypted form of private key is being stored, and user IDs typically will be the user's email ID. Now, to make the public private key, so how is the private key stored? A private key is stored in an encrypted format. So, to make private key as secure as possible, the private key itself is not stored in the key ring. Instead, it is encrypted using any of these symmetric key encryption algorithms like CAST or IDEA or triple DES. And how the encryption is done is like this. The user selects a passphrase. Okay, some say some question. What is the name of your pet? Okay, so you get an answer, right? So that is a passphrase. So user selects a passphrase, and whenever the system generates a new public key private key pair, let us say using RSA algorithm or any sort of public key cryptographic system generates a public key private key pair. So whenever a new public key private key pair is generated, the system asks the user for a passphrase. Okay, now what the system does is using SHA-1, a 160-bit hash code is generated from the passphrase. So the system asks for a passphrase from the user, and the system actually generates a hash code using SHA-1 algorithm, and now the passphrase itself is discarded. It is not being stored. That is not necessary, right? Storing that can lead to security issues. So that is discarded. And now the system encrypts a private key using any of these symmetric key algorithms. Okay. So the system encrypts a private key using CAST 128 with the 128 bits of hash code as the key. Okay, now the hash code is then discarded and the encrypted private key is stored in the private key ring. So this is how encryption is done. So here first passphrase is generated, then the hash code of the passphrase is generated. So the passphrase itself is discarded, and the system actually encrypts the private key using the hash code generated. Okay, but the hash code itself is not saved, it is discarded, and the encrypted form of the private key is stored in the private key. So this is how a private key encryption is done. Now, public key ring, what are the information which are stored? Again, we have already said a timestamp is generated when every public key private key pair is generated. Similarly, key ID is the least significant 64 bits of the public key. The public key itself is stored, and there are some trust values which we will discuss later, and also the user ID of the particular public key private key pair. Uh, Okay, what happens during PGP message generation? Okay, we already said when PGP wants to send a message to another person, first, if signature is required, a digital signature is generated, that is hash code, which is in the encrypted format. Then we know we have the zip algorithm, which is not shown in this diagram, and then we have got symmetric key encryption, uh, which happens here, and finally, whatever is generated is Radix 64 encoding is done, which is also not shown here. Okay, so the compression and the encoding mechanisms are not shown here. But what is shown in this diagram is while PGP message is being generated, how the key values which are used in that process is taken from the private key and the public key rings. That is what is being illustrated here. Okay, so we know that, okay, we are sending a message M. Okay, message M. So first step in order to generate the signature for this message is to generate the hash code using say SHA-1 algorithm. Now this hash code has to be encrypted using the private key of A. Okay, that is what signature is. So private key resides in the private key ring, right? And we know the private key is in the encrypted format. It is stored in the encrypted format. But in order to use it, we have to decrypt it, right? So what is being done is, so the user again has to, the system asks the user again for the passphrase, which was earlier used, and the hash of the passphrase is generated using say SHA-1 algorithm, and that is the key for this private key, right? So we're using this hash value to decrypt this private key. So this is a decryption process, and then when the decryption is done, you finally get the private key of E. So that is used to encrypt this hash code and generate the signature part. Okay. Now, along with that is the signature is concatenated with the message, and then earlier we said the next step is compression, which has been skipped here. Now, after the signature generation process is done, then we go for confidentiality part or encryption part. So encryption we know is done using a symmetric key encryption algorithm. So symmetric key encryption is we know that what we said is in the case of PGP we use a session key for every message. A new session key is being generated by a particular algorithm, say cast or whatever. Okay. Now that session key has to be encrypted before it is sent to the recipient side. Right. So that encryption is done using the public key of the recipient. So the public key of the recipient, the public key of B resides in the public key ring. So we have to select the public key here, and the key ID of that public key also has to be part of the message when we are sending it to the other side. Similarly, here the key ID of the private key which is used also has to be part of the message. Okay. Now, what happens at the recipient side? Recipient side, the reverse process, we'll anyway go through it. So, we have this particular message, PGP message has been received. Okay. So, first of all, we have to decrypt it, right? So first of all, we have to decrypt it. So in order to decrypt it, we need to use the encrypted session key is available as part of the message. So the session key has to be decrypted. So in order to decrypt the session key, we need that is the public key of uh, mm, the recipient has been sent, or the key ID of the receiver. Key ID has already been sent, and from this we can get the private key of that particular recipient, right? So in order to get that, you have got the key ID, you index into this private key ring, and from there you get the private key of, again, the private key is also in the encrypted format. So you get a passphrase, generate the hash value, and decrypt it to get the private key of the recipient, the private key of B. And this private key of B is used to decrypt the session key. And from the session, if you get the session key, then you can actually decrypt the message. So once we get the decrypted message, then we can go for the verification of the signature part. So in order to do that, so we know the private key of A has been used for encrypting the hash code, right? So the same public key has to be used. So that key ID is already available here. That is again used to index to the public key ring here and get the public key of A. Now that is used to decrypt the message. The message digest is decrypted using the public key, and also the message digest is generated here also, locally also, and then you are comparing, and if they are the same, then we say that authentication, proper authentication is being done. So this is what happens in the sender and receiver side. Okay, so we have seen the data structures which are used for storing the public keys and the private keys. They are called key rings. So next, we have to look at how to protect the public keys which are stored. Okay, so the private keys are stored in private key rings, which are local to the user. Uh, Say if user A is going to use the public key private key pair, the private key ring only contains A's private keys. But in the case of public key rings, uh, the public key ring also has to store the public keys of those users with which the current user communicates. And we have to ensure that these public keys are actually legitimate. Okay, that is, if I am user A and I have the public keys of B, C, D, and so on. So how can I ensure that the data which I have stored about the public keys of B, whether it belongs to B itself? Okay, so that is an issue which is there. So how do we protect public keys from being tampered? That is the next question. Okay, so A has public key ring, and A's key ring has B's public key, but in fact it might be owned by C. Okay, that situation can arise. So that should not happen. So how can that be managed? So preventing false public key from entering a user's public key. That is the aim of the public key management. So different approaches can be done. So physically get key from B. So if I am A and I want to communicate with B, then I can physically get key from B using a floppy disk, but it has practical limitations. Because you cannot communicate with some person across the globe and so on. So another method is you can verify the key by phone. That is, A calls B, dictates key in the Radix 64 format. Now B emails key, A generates a hash of the key, A calls B, okay, and verifies and so on. Okay, this is another method which can be done. Okay. Now, verification by phone is only if again A and B know each other, and if A is calling B, then A know that it is actually calling B itself. So that level of trust has to be there in order to do the verification by phone. Next option is get B's public key from a mutually trusted person D. So if we have got a person D who's trusted, A and B needs to communicate, and they wants to share their public key. They want to share their public key. So if they have a mutually shared person called D, so D generates the SHA1 digest from B's public key, timestamp, and validity, and D encrypts the digest using its own private key and sets it to A. Now, only D could have signed B's public key uh, uh, using its own, using D's private key, right? So, since D is trusted, B's public key is accepted. So, it is again based on the level of trust. Okay. Like we saw here, if only there is trust, then you can verify by phone. Similarly, if only both A and B trust D, then they can accept the keys which are sent by D. Okay, to a large, when this same concept of a common trusted party, when it is scaled to a commercial level or a larger scale, then we have the concept of what is known as a certifying authority. Okay, so like a service provider, there are entities like GoDaddy and so on, who their role is they're trusted by people like they have different clients, and what they do is, so B's public key is the one which has to be shared with us. Now B's public key is signed by the certifying authority, which is trusted by both A and B. Okay, so A has to trust either B or the certifying authority. So this is the certifying authority is trusted by everyone, and certifying authority will sign B's public key and send it to the person who wants to get it. So these are different approaches commonly used, but PGP itself proposes what is known as a trust model, okay, which does not rely on the methods which we have already seen. So in PGP's trust model, PGP provides a method for associating trust with the public keys. That is, what is the level of trust that a user has with the public keys stored in its key ring. Okay, that is associated with each of the public keys. So if we look at the earlier key ring example, so here public key ring, this is public key ring, right? We have seen it already. So in this we have the timestamp at which this public key private key is generated, the key ID for it, the public key itself, and there are these trust fields. It is these trust fields which we are talking about. It is based on these that the level of trust associated by the user with this particular public key is identified. Okay, so that is a method proposed by PGP itself. Now, each entry in the public key ring has three entries for storing trust values. One is the owner trust field, then there is a signature trust field, and finally there is a key legitimacy field. There are three fields associated with this in the public key ring. owner trust field, it indicates a degree to which this public key is trusted to sign other public key certificates. So the owner, A is the owner of the key ring, and the owner actually assigns a level of trust to the to that particular entry. Okay, so it looks like this earlier, like we saw earlier. This is the public key ring, right? So in this public, let us say this public key ring belongs to A. Now the owner trust field is this. So here a value is associated, a value is given by the owner A to this public key which is entered here. Okay, and what it means, it indicates a degree to which this particular public key is trusted to sign other public key certificates. Okay, and this field is populated by the owner. Now next is signature. So we said there are three fields. Next is signature trust field. Okay, so each entry is associated with zero or more signatures that the key owner has collected that signs this certificate. Okay, so here signature trust is, so there are, for each entry there are multiple signatures associated. Okay, multiple signatures associated with it. So for if there is a public key corresponding to this public key, different people can assign different levels of trust. Different owners can assign different trust levels, right? So those trust levels, those assigned by different owners can be collected and stored here by this particular user. That is what signature trust means. Okay, so signature trust field is each entry is associated with zero or more signatures that the key owner has collected that signs this certificate. Okay, now each signature has a signature trust field, and the signature trust field gives a degree to which this PGP user trusts the signer to certify the public keys. So signature trust field are cache copies of owner trust field. So for every entry or entry for the public key, now these entries, associated with these entries are signatures of multiple users, and corresponding to each signature you are associating what is known as a signature trust field also. And this signature trust field is actually, signature trust field value is actually a copy of the owner trust field of another user. Okay, and possible values are given here. That is, you can say the owner trust field value can be either undefined trust or unknown user, or you can say complete ultimate trust or complete trust. So these are some of the values which can be populated there. Similarly, signature trust field is what we discussed now. So this key is present in secret keyring. So if it is there, then one value is ultimate trust, or you can say always trusted to sign other keys, usually trusted, usually not trusted, so undefined. These are some of the values which can be populated there. So how those values are given, we will discuss. But before that, these are the values which are given. Okay. Now, third thing is key legitimacy field. So the extent to which PGP trusts that entry is a valid key for this user. So the extent to which PGP system trusts that this particular entry for the public key is valid key for this user. That is PGP saying PGP has complete trust that this particular public key belongs to this particular user, or it has only a limited trust, and so on. Okay. So this value of this key legitimacy field, it is derived from the collection of signature trust fields in this entry. Okay, so we'll go back to that picture once again. So corresponding to a public key, the owner will assign a trust flag. Okay, and Then we have the signatures which are collected by the owner, okay, from others, from other entries made by other users, and a value is associated with that also. For every signature, a trust value like complete or uh, unknown or multiple different values can be associated with this. Now, this key legitimacy field is can be thought of as an average of all the signature trust field values. Okay, so for this particular entry, you can have multiple signatures and multiple signature trust values. And an average of that is a key legitimacy value. Okay, so that is how it is calculated. So you have owner trust field, you have signature trust field, and finally you have key legitimacy field. These are entries associated with a particular public. Now, how does the operation of trust work? Now, when A inserts a public key on the public key ring, okay, uh, that is, A can have multiple values in the public key ring. Now, if A is going to insert a public key on the public key ring, and if A itself is the owner, okay, if A itself is the owner, then this public key also appears in the private key ring. So in that case, so if A itself is the owner, then the value, the owner trust field value associated with this entry will be ultimate trust. Okay. So A is inserting a public key into the public key ring, and if A is the owner, then the value entered in the owner trust field is ultimate trust. Otherwise what happens? Otherwise, PGP asks for A's assessment of the owner of the scheme. Okay, what is A's assessment? That value will be entered. And A can enter this owner as unknown or untrusted or marginally trusted or completely trusted. Different values can be populated. So that is A's assessment of this public key. That is the value entered in the owner trust field. Okay, so now we come to signature trust field, how that field is being populated. Okay, so for every public key, there will be one or more signatures attached to it. So I'm A or the user A. Okay, and I'm entering, let us say, the value of B into my public key ring, and I can have multiple users, say C, D, etc., signing, vouching that this key, which is belonging to B, is actually a valid public key. So different people can actually sign for that. That is why we have corresponding to a public key, one or more signatures are attached to it. Now, when a signature is entered, PGP searches the public key ring for this author of the signature. Okay, so I'm saying, so let us say so I am the user A, and I have a public key ring in my machine, let us say, and I am entering the public key of B into my public key ring, and I can have multiple people, let us say C, D, and E, who are vouching or saying that this particular key which I'm entering of B is actually a valid. So that is why you are associating multiple signatures corresponding to a public key. Okay, so in A's public key ring, I am entering B's public key value, and multiple people are signing for it also, and corresponding to a signature. So whenever a signature is entered, PGP searches the public key ring for the author of the signature. That is, signatures are given by, let us say, users C, D, and E. So we have three signatures associated with the public key of B in A's public key ring. Now, if so, whenever these signatures are found, PGP actually searches for the author of the signature. Now, if the author of the signature is present in the public key ring of A itself, if it is present, The owner trust value for this owner is assigned to the signature trust value. Okay, for owner, if it is there, then corresponding to that, an owner trust field value will be associated, right? That value is entered in the signature trust field. Otherwise, you're saying this is an unknown user. That value is being entered. So this is how the signature trust field value is being populated. Uh, Next, we have the value of the key legitimacy field. So what did we say earlier? Key legitimacy field is calculated on the basis of signature trust value. It is just like if there are multiple signature trust fields and values, then you take an average of that and put it in the key legitimacy field. That is what we generally do. Okay. So the actual method is if at least one signature has a signature trust value of ultimate. If at least one of the signatures has value ultimate, then the key legitimacy value is set to complete. The trust is complete. Otherwise, it is otherwise that PGP computes a weighted sum of the trust values of the signatures. So weight of 1 by x is given to the signatures that are always trusted. Always trusted is one level of trust, and 1 by y to signatures that are usually trusted. So you're giving a weight to the values of always trusted and usually trusted. Others are not considered, and where x and y are user configurable parameters. These weights are actually user configurable parameters. Now, when total weight of this reaches 1, then the binding is considered to be trustworthy and key legitimacy value is set to complete. Thus, in the absence of ultimate trust, at least signatures that are always trusted, signatures that are usually trusted, or a combination of these. So, either you have ultimate trust. Otherwise, in case ultimate trust is not there, then the always trusted values and usually trusted values are considered and their weighted average is taken. Okay. So this is how we arrive at different trust values for the public key values which are entered in your public hearing. So the PGP proposes three different fields. One is the owner trust field, then the signature trust field, and the key legitimacy field. Using a combination of these and the different values assigned by different users, PGP itself will come up with a trust value associated with each of these public hearings. Okay, that's it.